Greetings, bloggers, vloggers, followers, and potters. Dustin here from Dustin's Dynasty with another edition of this week's vlog. If you haven't been following me for a while, I welcome you all to my channel. My name is Dustin. I'm an autistic man in my middle ages. I've been living this autistic thing most of my life, although I was diagnosed when I was 13. Um, I've been living on my own for over 7 years, and I've had a part-time job for just over 16 years. So I've been living this life of being autistic and trying to strive through my life as much as possible. And without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into this week's vlog. And this week's vlog is about behaviors. Now, we know that behaviors have our ways of communicating, our ways of expressing ourselves, but sometimes when those behaviors happen, we have to understand, not only as autistic people, but those who care for autistic people have to make those who don't, those autistic people who have trouble understanding it. Behaviors have consequences, and autism, as it often is used, is a way to get out of things. And I was always raised that we don't reward bad behavior and that we don't use our autism as an excuse as a way to get out of things. Granted, autism can hinder how hard it is for us to endure things, or that things may be a little bit tough in life, okay? But it doesn't give us the a pass at acting a way so that we get our way, or that um, we're promised the world because something is not not just too much for us, but if we have the understanding, if we have the capability, if we have the skills, then we have to work at coping with that and asking for the help that we need, or working through the frustration or the emotions that we're facing so that we can be better at managing ourselves. Or if not, how do we address that behavior or that need in a way that it can be properly taken care of, and understanding that in part things are put in place to make those things happen. Let's talk, like such as medication, for example. Not everybody likes to talk about it, but I had to understand it's hard to do. And for me, and I know it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon on Saturday. Yes, I'm burnt out from the week, and yes, I get time to sleep. But it takes time to get adjusted and going with my day, but it outweighs having to deal with the things that I've dealt with in the past. And I learned the hard way over the past 6 or 7 years that I need the medication. It's a part of what I need to live. And if I don't do it, it's going to cause a problem. And part of what helps me, I guess, not cause a scene, not cause a problem, in one way is having the medication, but also understanding that there are consequences when we go out into the public world, um, and we do things and we say things that are hurtful. We say things that may not be needed to be said, or may not even be our province, may not be part of what we need to talk about, part of what we may not need to understand or do or even be involved in. And because it stresses us out because we feel like it bothers us or it brings us down, sometimes things just aren't worth the battle, I guess. And it can be easy to wanna fight things that we feel we have to have sort of an injustice for or whatever, but some things just aren't worth the fight. And sometimes you have to back down because you understand that, well, it may cause you to act out in a certain way, those behaviors, when they're unable to be controlled, have consequences. And over the past, I'd say, year or so, or almost year, I had to learn that I'm not going to be given as much latitude as I used to be. There's a lot of things that have changed in the last few years, a lot of new people and new roles. And part of that is understanding that just because I'm autistic and just because I have a mental health diagnosis, that does not give me a pass at being having earning a having a consequence for a behavior that could happen or would happen, and that it is part of my responsibility on my part to take care of my mental health, understand what's right from wrong, do what I need to do to treat myself, how to care for myself properly, so on and so forth. Um, it's also understanding that there are expectations in many environments that I am in. Those expectations need to be met. And if those expectations are not met, there can be consequences. And while there is some understanding and some knowledge that, we have to be, that we are understood in some way, there's just a reality that there's a fine line in the world where right is right and wrong is wrong. And, when we do something that warrants a consequence, we can't use the autism card to get out of it. Especially if we understand and comprehend and we acknowledge and we accept that the consequences of saying no to something, of not doing something, or of acting out in a certain way. Now, granted, I do know there are those individuals on the spectrum who don't understand that. And that is not in this scenario because it can happen that, that don't understand it. But, and sometimes things are not of our fault particularly, or they're not evolved because of our fault. And I've been in that situation too, but it comes down to the point that I was given a reality check sometimes, and that there's a reality that you have to do what you have to do to manage yourself, to compose yourself, to restrain yourself, and keep yourself under control, because that is what matters the most when you're going through a challenging situation. What matters most is what you control. There's plenty of things outside of my realm that I cannot control. And as hard as it can be, just to not want to say things, or not want to act out, or not want to cause complaining, or have people have others want to sympathize and feel and fuel our fire, so to speak. It's just not worth it sometimes. And for me, I had to understand that I had to learn how to be my own person, how to stand up, how to work to myself to be who I need to be, how to be independent, um, all of these things, and not cause oneself to get reactive and not have consequences that I know I cannot have. That would be detrimental to me. And that even though, I feel like I would want people to sympathize with me, there's a reality that, consequences are consequences. And there is no, going back from the mistakes you make, especially when they're hurtful to others, or they cause danger or fear in others, or just there's just you just don't understand. There's just no understanding of that, I guess. And I guess that's where, it's hard to say, yes, behavior, it can be communication in some way, but it's also, working past behaviors that are troublesome and working at a way to work through those emotions, find coping skills that are helpful, find ways to make things better for us, find ways to understand ourselves. And it took a long time for me to get to that point to where, I understood, hey, you can't do that. Hey, if you do that, you're gonna have XYZ consequence. Um, it's not easy, accepting that, but I had to face reality really hard, and say, hey, you can't be doing this. You can't say what's on your mind, because if you say what's on your mind, you might get, passionate, and you may let the wrong things slip out, or you may get angry, or you may get stressed, or you may get upset and say something that you don't want to say, cause a scene that you don't want to cause. And, for me, I think in some instances, some environments, there are many people who see me as an amazing person. And, I don't want them to see me as somebody who doesn't have it all together, or doesn't, can't control things, when I've worked so darn hard to get to where I am today. And yet there's these instances where I'm fueled by one thing or another, and there's a disregard for a sense of, wanting to do, I guess, what I need to do, because, I'm not listening to the cues, or, whatever. And I think that's more of the thing with me, is I need to listen to more of the cues, know what to do. When the cues hit that, hey, something's a little triggering, something's stressing me out, and not, reacting that way, because I understand, that behaviors have consequences. It's not even just behavior itself, it's acts. It's knowing what's right from wrong, and what's legal, what's not legal, having those understandings, that, sometimes we get mixed up in the wrong thing as autistic people, and I see it too often with special needs autistic people, that, there's a misunderstandings, or, an ability to understand things, and it ends up in a way that, things could cross the line, and, there could be consequences. And, it's not a simple, hey, I am autistic, hey, I have special needs, you know, you're not going to get out of something just for that. And it can have, and while the consequences cannot be as brutal, there are still setbacks, that things that, could take our freedoms away, or have us to do extra steps in life, to things that just not what you want. And, I am one who is a rule follower, so to speak, and one to follow the rules, and one to understand what's moral, legal, appropriate, so forth. That, behaviors do have consequences, just like actions do too. And there's, that autism is not a way out of something. Special needs is not a way out of something. It's, you have to do what you have to do. You have to follow the rules. You have to do what's right, what's moral, what you're supposed to do, and work at being your best person. So again, I want to close this week by thank you for listening. If you haven't already, be sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, tap a notification bell if you want to see when my new vlogs come across. I do a vlog usually every week. If you haven't already, follow me on Facebook, Instagram, X, Pinterest, TikTok, all under Dustin's Dynasty. I'm on the web at addresses www.dustinsdynastyusa.com. And lastly, if you haven't have want to know where all my links are, you sign up for my email list, and see where I'm streaming on my podcasting platforms, or anything of the such, you can go to Dustin's Dynasty under Linktree. Again, I want to thank you for listening. Let's have a great weekend, everyone. Take care of yourselves. Stay safe out there. Remember, you are matter, you are enough, you are loved, and we'll talk at you soon. Bye for now.